Hey everybody, welcome back. It's good to see everybody here today for our idea networking session for July 2026. My name is Sharon Chaden Burks, and I am a senior instructional designer for Sinclair Community College. Before that, I taught ESL in higher education to international students. So I haven't always done ID. And that's kind of why I got into doing these sessions was helping other teachers who are looking to transition to a new career field because as we know, teaching can get old. You can get kind of burnout. And sometimes when you're burnout, it's better just to move on and not make anyone else suffer while you're really struggling. I have two guest speakers for you tonight. I bring you Alexia Walls and Jessie Fisk. So please write down your questions as they're talking. You will have time to chat with them in breakout rooms. And I have at least one new resource to share with you after we do our breakout rooms. So Alexia, I'm going to spotlight you and you're welcome to take it from here.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Alexia Walls. I am a 10-year educator. I actually have an untraditional route because I started out as an adjunct instructor instead of doing a K through 12 teaching. And so being an adjunct instructor allowed me the opportunity to go into K through 12 teaching because it was a little bit more stable. As you guys know, when you're at the collegiate level, in order to be tenured or to have a full-time position in higher education, you typically have to have a doctoral degree. And so I left adjunct teaching part-time to do teaching at the high school level. I have piloted courses, whether that be speech communication, writing for ninth graders. And then I stepped out of the classroom about 2 years ago, initially as a diversity and equity coordinator for my school district. We had over about 2,500 students and about 200 faculty where I was over the training and workshops for cultural events, building bridges for community. And so we did a lot of kind of equity work around that space. Once the kind of changing of tides kind of happened with the new administration, that kind of role dissolved, and I found myself having to pivot once again. And this time around, I pivoted to becoming a training and development manager at a nonprofit organization. And so I went back into doing part-time adjuncting because that's kind of where my heart is at. But I also am getting my doctoral degree in instructional technology and leadership. So I'm still, navigating those same spaces you guys are and trying to find and forge my path with instructional design and training and development.
Excellent. Jessie, are you ready?
I'm ready. I hope my camera's ready too.
It looks good so far.
All right, good. Um, yeah, welcome everyone. I am Jessie Fisk. I have been working as an instructional designer for the past 5 years. I am a senior instructional designer at a company that is I'm remote, and I am working with labor unions, kind of contract workers, and helping them design huge corporate level trainings. I started out in education a long time ago. I was a classroom teacher, like in the classroom for 7 years, middle school and high school art mainly. And then I transitioned to virtual education at a K-12 school before the pandemic hit. So I was already, working from home from the laptop. And it was unfortunately perfect timing because I didn't have to change anything when the pandemic hit. And I did virtual teaching for 5 years. And during that, I really kind of got into more of the kind of building trainings. Like the curriculum was already written, but I was trying to like help build trainings for students so that they could kind of work on their own or like find more engaging and interesting ways to kind of help the curriculum be less boring and more entertaining, and get student buy-in. And that was really what led me to kind of instructional design work. I didn't even know as a teacher that that was a thing that was out there, that I could really build my skills and not have, in the classroom on, calls with students, talking to parents and things like that day in and day out. And so I worked on building my skills to learn storyline and captivate and things like that. Got into my first instructional design job 5 years ago, and have not looked back to the classroom since. And it's really interesting. A lot of people that I work with in instructional design and in L&D world, most of them have a teaching background. Most of them come from a very similar education background. I think I've only, in the 3 companies that I've worked for, I think I've only met 2 people that actually have, like, that started out in instructional design and actually have an instructional design um, license or certificate or degree. And then recently I just added on to my tool belt because I was an educator. I'm constantly love learning, love adding on more. I just recently passed the PMP. And so I am now, even though I am a senior instructional designer, that is another, tool in my belt that I'm now, certified in project management as well.
Jessie, before we move on, for people here who don't know what PMP is, can you give kind of a brief explanation of what that is and why someone might want to get that credential?
Sure. Yeah. So PMP just stands for Project Management Professional. And it, obviously project managers, a lot of those, you need to have that before you can get a job. But anybody working on projects from start to finish, that need to know things like, contracts, need to know things like managing people, managing a team, leadership skills, things like that. It's a really powerful, tool to have in your resume, because it shows companies that you have not only sat for 4 hours through this very grueling long test and passed, which is really hard, and lots of lots of money spent and lots of time, studying leading up to that. It really shows that you're able to have those, leadership skills, management skills, and you would look for a company. Some companies, job descriptions, for more of like the managerial type of instructional design, a lot of those, some of those do have, requirement or nice to have is a PMP, and it's through the Project Management Institute. So PMI
Yeah, I
is,
did get it. Okay.
yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So like PMP certification is kind of good for if you're looking to go into a job where you're organizing large scale project advancement. Um, Off the top of my head, I think construction, I think pharmaceuticals, government contracts. That credential is really useful for those industries. You might see it listed there a lot. It is 7:16. How do we feel about actually, there is one question I want to ask both of you before we go to breakout rooms. It's one that is asked, I feel like pretty regularly, but it's a good question to ask. Um, in the positions that you've been in within learning and development, have you worked alone on a team? Are what Who are you working with? How many people? Are you responsible for end-to-end development? Can you speak a little bit about that? And I'll have Alexia go first on that one.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I also want to piggyback on that. Jessie, congratulations for your project management certification. That's really good. I also have seen a lot of healthcare industries and engineering industries really pivoting towards making sure that their engineers or people that are in instructional design and healthcare also have project management experience. But to your point, I think it just really depends on where you're at in your organization, but I think collaboration is always going to be at the forefront of what you do with instructional design and training, right? Because one, you're learning an organization and you're learning the various parts of that organization in order for you to train others about certain things that are happening in that company. So, for example, when I'm at the nonprofit, there are different departments, right? I'm under human resources and operations, but then we also have behavioral health. We also have restorative justice. We had about five or six different departments. And so whenever I was tasked with creating a training or needing to do some type of development for that staff or that team, then the first thing that I'm doing is communicating with them, right? I need to know what the end goals are. What is it that they need to learn? What the outcomes are? How do you need to learn this? And it just depended on that team's outcomes, whether or not I would be an end to end. Most of the time I wasn't end to end, right? Because I'm using a learning management system like Paylocity to kind of track those trainings and develop those courses in order for them to be taken. But sometimes they would come to me with something that they needed to be trained on, and I would start the shell of it, but then I would pass it over to that department and then they would end that. And so it was a lot of collaboration, a lot of talk, a lot of meetings. You're consistently going through and updating and kind of showing them, at least on my end, what is the transition from beginning to end and in the middle even, so that when we get to that ending piece, it's exactly what they need it to be, and then we can track it from there.
Jessie, would you like to pick up?
Sure. Yeah, and I think it really depends on the company that you're working for, or if you're a contractor, like the type of work that you're doing. If you're doing end to end, or if you're on a team or alone. So I've worked at three companies now as an instructional designer. The first one was a large company the company was contracted with the U.S. government for building trainings for Marketplace and Medicare. So it was a huge, we had teams upon teams of instructional designers, and it was the instructional designers themselves didn't really do an end to end. We helped kind of storyboard and start the process, hand it off to the design team that designed the graphics or the trainings, the ELMs, the e-learnings and things like that. And so it was we did chunks of work by team, by team to team. The second company that I worked for was kind of fun because it was a smaller company. I got to work with the clients. I would do kickoff meetings and really work end to end on getting these smaller scale projects completed with the clients. And then we also had a team that worked on building the e-learnings for that as well. But it was more of like hand it off to the e-learning team. They would hand it back to me. I would check it. I would see if everything's, what the client wants. I would take it to the client. We would meet again. It was a lot of back and forth with the client. And I was working sometimes on a team, but it was small enough that sometimes I was, kind of in control of the entire project. And the company that I work for now, it's kind of more of we're not really like a tech company, but we're kind of more of a startup-ish field, tech-ish field company working for a huge client right now. And so I'm actually managing a team of instructional designers and contractors. And so it's a huge thing it's taken several years to get to where we are, and we're almost to the end of this gigantic project. And so that has been really fun because I have been able to be part of a team, seeing the start of these projects to the end. And so I think your question is really, it's wherever you end up working, whoever you're in, what company you're working for, what type of work you might get into.
While you were talking, I was looking at the PMP site. I just have to share this because this is too timely. Coming July 2026, the exam for sitting this for this, you have to do this exam as part of this credential. It's being updated. So if you're taking it after July 9th, which is 2 days from now, you need to prepare using refreshed learning resources. Wow. Sustainability, AI, and value delivery, reflecting the changing ways project leaders think, collaborate, and deliver results. Interesting.
That's why a lot of people who were working towards the PMP were trying to get that exam done and passed before that July 9th cutoff, because you would have to learn a whole new study for a whole new test with including AI. So, yeah.
How fun is that? Okay. Well, good to know. Good to know. Okay, everybody. Let's see. Let's pause here for our breakout rooms. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Before we get into the thing I have to show you and whole group Q&A, want to let you know that the next time that we are going to meet is Tuesday, August 4th from 7 to 8 p.m. And if you want to go ahead and get registered for that now, I just put the registration link in the chat. The thing I want to show you, I recently did an AI training at my university. It's a credential that one of my colleagues made. And I came across a resource that I've never seen this. I didn't know this was a thing. Tokens in AI. I do recall a long time ago, someone said, oh, it depends on how many tokens it is. I'm like, what does this mean? What do you, whatever. Okay, oh, I'm using a couple tokens. I have no idea. Their OpenAI has a site where you can see this at play. So let me show you their tokenizer. You can learn about how they parse apart what you put in for your input. So I just grabbed a recent prompt from a conversation. That isn't it. That is the registration link. Give me 1 second. Let me copy it here because it was the registration thing was the last thing I copied. All right, here we go. So there is a prompt that I have put in before, and it shows me how it parses it into tokens. And then does this give you, it gives you advice? It doesn't give me advice. This one doesn't give me advice, but the training that I was in was giving me advice about how to reword my prompts differently to use fewer tokens. So dropping things like please, instead of making a question, just telling it what to do, brevity to reduce the number of tokens. And I never really thought about that before. I thought that I was supposed to be polite and, I don't know, thorough. And so I wasn't really thinking a ton about it. But you use fewer tokens when you try to be a little more concise and to the point about what you're asking for. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you all. Let me grab this and put it in the chat so you have access to that. I feel like I'm always learning something with AI. I just looked at my, I have a paid version of ChatGPT as part of my job in our division, and there was a new button that says agents. I was like, oh, what is this? Now I have to go and learn about it. I put on here AI agents. It's like, are these a thing that I can use now? Like looks like they had ready built things, and I'm like, I'm gonna go start testing that tomorrow, seeing what it is. I mean, I know what an AI agent is, but I haven't seeing what they've already created that I can use and modify for myself. So if I have favorable results, I will report back next month and let you know how it goes. All right, let's open up for a whole group Q&A. What are our questions that you have?
I actually have a comment about the
Sure.
agent because
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
just was messing with it. I was watching, it was 8 hours on Saturday and 8 hours on Sunday with these a mastermind class. I was just listening in and doing some of the things, and I created my own agent that would go check my emails. So every morning at 8 o'clock, I will get an email now that will tell me the top 5 emails that I should respond to.
That's nice. Have you found it useful?
I have it. I probably would if I get more personal emails. All mine are still like generic, but I'm working on one. I want to try to figure out, and I know it's done. I just got to go back and watch the 16 plus hours of you can set it up where you can have it go check job sites for that you have linked into that you can search, and then they will throughout the night will go and during the day will go out and match like the requirements with what I can offer and then send it to me, the link and stuff.
Very useful.
Hmm.
Um, do you have any link or anything you want to share in the chat or a name of the mastermind course you were
I
talking about?
can, yep, I can put that in there.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
They're very long. It was very long, but it was very good information. But I
Mhm.
also was telling my group that I found out I learned from that Saturday. I learned on Friday night or something, but Saturday and Sunday on your clip it tool on your computer,
Mhm.
it can do video. It can record video, and so I recorded it, even though I was going to get my own copy because
Mhm.
they were sending it out. But I wanted my own copy in case things happen, you don't get it.
Okay,
But yeah, I was like,
awesome. Other questions out there? I've been using AI a lot this week. I used it as a thought partner. I'm building a course in Canvas. It's the first competency-based course I have been making, and we're using outcomes to track whether or not students have mastered this competency. It's for aviation. And it's the first time I've been working with the Learning Mastery gradebook in Canvas. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm leveling with Canvas. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Here's what I want to do. And it's like leading me along, and I'm like, I don't see that button. And then it's like, try this. I'm like, oh, well, that worked. And then I was like, would you like me to come up with a plan to test whether or not these outcomes track to students? I was like, yes, please. So it's just nice to have, to not have to bother a colleague or a supervisor or someone else just to like, that's all I needed. I needed someone. And also, everyone on my team is also learning Canvas for the first time. So I'm like, even we have to figure this stuff out.
Were
So
you
they
guys
have to help
using
me.
like D2L Brightspace or
Yeah,
Blackboard before?
D2L.
Okay, okay, yeah.
And
Canvas is way more complex. I've used Canvas at the high school level, and you can really get into like how you even design in the background coding wise. And I
Mhm.
and DTL D2L is very kind of straightforward. It's not a whole lot that goes into it as much as Canvas. So I understand.
Yeah, it's definitely been a learning curve for all of us. Yeah, we've been doing this for a year. We have been migrating courses from D2L into Canvas and making things look nice that didn't migrate well, and recreating stuff and training faculty who are just dragging their feet. I don't want to do it. And it's like, well, guess what? Now we lost D2L access. So hope it's all good to August when they're course is broken because they didn't do anything. Hopefully not, but there's always going to be some that are like, well, I didn't know we were doing that. Okay, we've been telling you for a year and a half, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Other questions? Oh, thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so the first one, the Russell Brunson with AI Secrets Challenge, that's the name of his group. That's the one I've been listening through during the day. And then this Antkin Signal, I clone in a day. That one is the long day one. That's the one you actually learn how to make 5 clones all in one day.
Okay. I'm putting it on my agenda so I can share it with.
I did have one question. So I mostly do my ID work, like I'm the only instructional designer on the team. So I'm curious about like when working with a team of instructional designers, like I understand like collaboration is a huge part of it, but like what does that look like from when you're actually like managing a project? Is it like you have certain teammates where, this person's really good at designing like gamified activities. This person's really good at distilling a lot of text into like a more reasonable chunk. Does it break down like that, or is it kind of like everybody does everything and just kind of changes around and it's all negotiated?
Jessie, do you want to take that one before I answer?
Sure, yeah. Again, I was going to say, I guess it really, based on where, what kind of company you're working for. The first company that I worked for, it's funny that you say gamification because that's what my master's in secondary education and technology was focused on. And with that gamification, I was kind of moved into this department where I led a team and we made micro learning, gamified learning for the customer service representatives at the marketplace and Medicare to like they could have little tiny mini games and mini learning sessions in between calls and things like that. So in that company, they saw that skill set in me, and so I was moved into that team. But other places, it's not really based on necessarily like your skill set or what you like to do. A lot of times it's just, you're on this team, all the instructional designers do this specific task for this project. The team that I'm working on, that I'm managing now, I have certain number of people. They work on PowerPoints and e-learnings, and then some other people are working on we make these instructional guides, student guides, things like that. And so it's really kind of just based on what deliverables, what tasks need done to hand off to the client by the deadline. And so everybody's just all on board working on, creating all of these deliverables on time. And it's not really necessarily based on, it's not like, oh, well, Jamie's really good at this type of thing, so I'll let her do this task and then I'll take it from there. It's more of, everybody's kind of at the same skill set and churning out these deliverables for the client.
I'll add on that. So I work in higher education, and typically what happens on our team is we have a batch of courses that come up for development, either revision or they're new developments. And we kind of sit and chat about, does anyone have an interest in this certain content area? Or maybe we've worked with a faculty member before, we did really good work together. So we have a little input on which courses we take on. And typically one ID will follow that course from beginning to end of development, but they may not be the only one involved. I'm not a fan of storyline, but sometimes it's a useful tool for certain interactions that might be needed in a course. So if I'm working on a course where a storyline file would be really useful, I might reach out to a colleague who loves doing storyline and wants to improve his or her skills. So we have expertise in certain areas, kind of like that. But we also take on sole ownership of seeing a project from beginning to end, to making sure that it's good before it goes live. But, like Jessie said, I think it just depends on how your team is structured. We're a jack of all trades on our team. We're good at lots of different things, but we also, I think I specialize in people management. Sometimes I take on projects with faculty members who are maybe a little more reticent to change, a little more like, I don't know. So I've picked up courses like that, and most of them get done. I'll say that. Sometimes they don't, but a lot of them do. And I always feel really good about the stuff when it's done. We are a little bit past time, so my apologies for that. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Jessie and Alexia, thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing your time and expertise. We really appreciate you being here and giving back to the community. It's always nice to meet new people and find out what they're doing, and we appreciate all of the talent you have shared with us tonight. Thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you all August 4th. Have a great night, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great night.